"Hey, janitor, you missed a spot." Laughter followed. Mac didn't respond. He just bent down, picked up the fallen flag, and began folding it. Slow, precise. Each fold like it mattered. The yard went quiet. A kid stopped chewing. Another removed his cap. When Mac finished, the flag was perfect. He held it to his chest. A girl whispered, "Who is he?" No one answered. But that morning, the whole school started paying attention. But if you know the answer, type one word below: respect. Enoch Mac McAllister arrived before the sun. Every morning, the same ritual. He parked his rusted green pickup behind the maintenance shed, unlocked the gate, and walked the perimeter of the school grounds like a soldier inspecting a post. The dew clung to his boots. His steps never hurried. By the time the staff lounge lights flickered on, Mac had already cleared the walkways of trash, raked the courtyard, and wiped down the flagpole. Most teachers passed him without a glance. Students barely noticed. To them, he was just another old man with a broom, quiet, bent, slow-moving. But if anyone had looked closely, they might have seen something else. The way he stood still when the flag was raised. The way he folded discarded lunch trays with the precision of origami. The way he scanned the yard, eyes sharp beneath his weathered cap, not just watching, but assessing. He never spoke unless necessary. Not because he was unfriendly, but because some men, after certain kinds of wars, measure their words like rations. In the faculty files, his name was listed simply as McAllister, E-Grounds custodian. No emergency contact. No resume on record. Just a handwritten note from the former principal. Reliable, don't ask questions. The students called him Mac. Some respectfully, others not so much. One freshman swore he saw Mac lift a steel bench by himself. Another claimed Mac lived in the shed. Rumors came and went, but Mac remained the same. Until that morning. It was just before first bell. A group of boys were messing around near the flagpole. One tossed a football too high. It hit the flag as it unfurled and knocked it to the ground. They laughed. "Oops, guess someone's got to fix that." Mac walked over without a word. He knelt slowly, lifted the fabric from the dirt, and shook off the dust. Then, standing straight, straighter than any of them had ever seen him, he began folding it. Not quickly, not carelessly. Step by step, right corner, tucked edge, triangle fold. Again, again. 11 precise turns. His fingers moved with muscle memory, as if they weren't just folding cloth, but honor. One by one, the boys quieted. Even the late bus pulling up didn't break the silence. A girl near the library window pressed her hand to the glass, watching. When he finished, Mac held the flag against his chest. Then he walked, slowly, deliberately, back toward the maintenance building. He didn't look at the kids. He didn't need to. By the time the second bell rang, a rumor had already started. He folded it like a soldier. You think he was military? That guy? No way. Was he? Mac didn't hear the whispers. Or maybe he did. But like always, he just kept moving. That day, for the first time, someone left a folded note on his workbench in the shed. It read, "Sir, thank you. My dad said only real soldiers know how to fold a flag like that. You reminded me of him." It wasn't signed, but Mac kept it anyway. And that afternoon, when the wind blew dust across the yard, he stepped outside without his cap, stood still, and let it hit his face like a memory. The week after the flag incident, something shifted. Not loudly, not all at once, but it was there. Teachers started nodding when they passed Mac, small, stiff gestures, unsure if they were meant to be greetings or apologies. Some students avoided eye contact. Others watched him from a distance, whispering behind lockers, daring each other to ask him if it was true. But Mac said nothing. He swept the courtyard, watered the garden beds, oiled the squeaky door hinges behind the cafeteria. And every morning, before anyone else arrived, he walked to the far end of the property, to the corner where the flagpole stood, and made sure the ground beneath it was clean. One rainy Tuesday, a boy named Isaiah slipped in the hallway and broke the chain on his bike. He didn't cry, just stared at the bent wheel with clenched teeth and a bruised ego. The next morning, his bike was leaning against the rack, clean, straight, and functioning like new. Isaiah looked around the yard. No note, no signature. But Mac walked by, dusting his hands on a rag. Chain was rusted, Mac muttered. Oiled it, too. It was the most he'd said all year. By Friday, Mac's name floated into casual conversation. He fixed my tire, too, said a staff member. He realigned the bleachers without anyone asking, said Coach Freeman. He never even goes inside the building, someone else added. Doesn't like noise, but not everyone welcomed the attention. Derek Milner, assistant vice principal, didn't trust him. Too many unknowns, he muttered during a staff meeting. No background, no clearance, no address beyond a P.O. box. What kind of man lives like that? The room was silent. Then Ms. Lott, the history teacher and a retired Army nurse, cleared her throat. He's the kind of man who doesn't need attention. Milner rolled his eyes. Well, we don't hire war ghosts. We hire professionals. That afternoon, Mac was called into the front office. He stood quietly in front of Milner's desk, still wearing his utility gloves. We're conducting a personnel audit, Milner began. There are gaps in your file. Mac didn't blink. Anything you'd like to add? Prior employment? Formal qualifications? Not really, Mac said. Milner leaned back. You're not making this easy. I'm not here to be easy. The silence that followed was sharp. Ms. Lott, who happened to be standing by the copier, looked up. Milner closed the folder. You'll be reassigned temporarily while we verify your employment history. For now, report to facilities downtown. Mac nodded once. As he turned to leave, Ms. Lott stepped into the hallway. Mr. McAllister, she said quietly. He paused. Was it 2nd Infantry? He didn't answer, but he looked her in the eye. For just a moment, that was enough. The next morning, students noticed the courtyard wasn't swept. The garden beds were unwatered. The flag was still on the pole, but the base was muddy and scattered with leaves, and for the first time all semester, the schoolyard felt loud again. Mac didn't complain about the reassignment. He didn't argue. He simply showed up at the downtown facilities department every morning at 6 a.m., signed the clipboard, and got to work. No one there knew his name. Just an older guy with quiet eyes and strong hands. Back at the school, things began to change. Trash built up under the bleachers. The gardens started to brown. One morning, the flag went up with a visible crease, uneven, slightly dragging at the edge. No one noticed at first, until someone did. Isaiah, the boy with the fixed bike, was the first to speak. Did something happen to Mac? The teacher shrugged. Not sure. Maybe he's sick, but he wasn't. He was downtown, organizing a warehouse of janitorial supplies like it was a supply depot under threat of attack. He had cleaned the same corner 3 times in one morning, out of habit more than need. After school one day, Isaiah rode his bike across town. He found Mac in the parking lot loading bags of mulch into a truck. Hey, the boy said out of breath. Mac looked up, not surprised. You're a long way from school. Isaiah hesitated. Everyone keeps messing stuff up now. No one's taking care of the field. The flag's crooked. I think they're mad you were quiet. Mac finished loading the last bag. Sometimes quiet people make loud people nervous. Isaiah frowned. That's dumb. Mac almost smiled. Yeah, it is. The boy turned to leave, then stopped. They say you're not coming back. I go where I'm told, Mac said. That night, something happened. Not at the school, not on the news, but in the choices of a few quiet kids. Isaiah and 3 others showed up early the next morning. They brought rakes, gloves, even a small flag stand. They swept the courtyard, watered what plants were still holding on, fixed the fold on the flag. Other students watched. Some laughed. A few joined. Ms. Lott noticed from the teacher's lounge window and said nothing. But her eyes lingered on them longer than usual. By Friday, someone had written in chalk near the flagpole, "He left it better than he found it. So will we." That weekend, Mac returned to the school after hours. He wasn't allowed on the grounds officially, but he had a key, an old one from the last principal. He didn't go inside, just walked the perimeter in silence, stopping at the garden, at the fence line, and finally, at the flag. It was folded better now, still not perfect, but someone had tried. He adjusted it carefully, stepped back, nodded. Then, from the shadows, a voice. "I told them not to touch it unless they were going to do it right." It was Isaiah. He was sitting on a bench, a rake across his lap like a rifle. Mac chuckled, a dry, quiet sound. "They did all right. Will you come back?" Mac didn't answer. He looked up at the stars, then at the boy, then down at the ground where new footprints crossed the dirt he once kept clean. "You're already doing it," he said. "Keep showing up, even when nobody claps." And then he left, same way he always did. No goodbyes, no explanation, just the quiet echo of boots walking away from something he'd made better without asking for thanks. The chalk message near the flagpole didn't last through the weekend rain, but the idea had already spread. By Monday morning, 6 students showed up early. One brought tools from home, another pulled weeds by hand. A girl named Marisol printed out flag-folding instructions and taped them to the inside of the utility closet door. No one told her to. She just thought it should be done right. Inside the main office, Ms. Lott brought the facility's reassignment letter to the principal's desk. "This was a mistake," she said plainly. Principal Harris raised an eyebrow. "We followed protocol. No file, no clearance." "Look outside," Ms. Lott said. He did. He saw kids working in silence, cleaning, fixing, carrying on routines no one had asked of them. "They're not just cleaning, they're honoring," she added. By midweek, a retired Army captain who volunteered at the school noticed a detail others had missed. The tool shed door had been rehinged, carefully, professionally, sometime after hours. He looked inside and saw a note tucked behind the first aid kit. "Sharp blades in lower drawer. Handle with care. E.M." The captain smiled. Then he made a few phone calls. That Friday, during last period, a black SUV with government plates parked outside the school. A tall man in uniform stepped out. Lieutenant Colonel Thomas Giroux, Army Human Resources Command. He walked directly to the front office, removed his cover, and introduced himself. "I'm here for Enoch McAllister." Harris blinked. "He's not on campus anymore." Giroux nodded. "Yes, he is. Everywhere I've looked today, I see him." The colonel toured the grounds slowly, accompanied by Ms. Lott. He paused at the garden, at the flagpole, at the workbench in the shed, still dusted with fresh soil. "He's still in uniform," Giroux murmured. "Just a different kind." That afternoon, Giroux met Mac behind the facilities building, where the old man was unloading a shipment of floor wax. He didn't salute. He didn't stand at attention. He just stood there, quiet, until Mac looked up. "Sergeant McAllister," he said softly. "Retired," Mac replied. "Not today." They didn't shake hands. They didn't talk about medals or missions. Giroux handed him a sealed envelope. Inside, reinstatement of employment at the school, signed and notarized. No questions asked. Below that, a handwritten message. "You served once. You're still serving?" Some uniforms never come off. Mac read it slowly, then folded it into thirds and tucked it into his back pocket. "I didn't ask for this," he said. "You didn't need to," Giroux replied. Others spoke. On Monday, Mac returned to the school grounds before dawn. Same truck, same boots, but something was different. This time, the lights in the teacher's lounge were already on, and waiting outside, standing in a line by the flagpole, were 20 students in their school clothes, standing still, caps off, facing east. Mac walked past them without a word, but as he raised the flag, he paused. A wind picked up. The fabric flared. He didn't smile, but he stood taller. When the last fold was secured and the flag fluttered clean in the sky, he looked out over the yard, and for the first time, he nodded. Weeks passed. The school returned to its usual rhythm. Hallway noise, PE whistles, bell schedules, but something stayed different, especially outside. The courtyard was cleaner. The trash bins were never full. Students started picking up after themselves without being told, not because of new rules, but because of something remembered. Mac spoke a little more now, short phrases, nothing wasted. "Good job. Secure that latch. Fold it cleaner next time." But his tone was never harsh. It carried something deeper, expectation with respect. One afternoon, Isaiah found Mac alone by the tool shed, sanding down a broken bench slat. "Do you miss it?" the boy asked. Mac didn't look up. "Miss what?" "Whatever it was, before this." Mac ran his thumb along the smooth edge of the wood. Then he said, "I miss the men who didn't come back, but I don't miss needing to fight." Isaiah nodded, not really understanding, but understanding enough to be quiet. That weekend, a tree appeared near the garden. No one saw who planted it. But on Monday morning, students gathered around it, freshly mulched, with a small bronze plaque at its base. It read, "In honor of those who serve without asking for thanks, for Mr. McAllister, who taught us with his hands." Mac didn't say a word when he saw it. He just adjusted his gloves and began planting new seeds around its base. Spring came early that year. The courtyard bloomed. The garden thrived. The flag never once touched the ground. And every morning, as buses pulled up and sleepy students spilled out with backpacks and hoodies, they passed an old man with steel in his spine and soil on his hands, still walking the yard before anyone else, still serving, still silent. On the final day of the school year, Principal Harris made an announcement over the loudspeaker. His voice was flat, uncertain. "Please direct your attention to the courtyard. We, have something special." Students filed out in waves. The entire school stood gathered in silence. A single chair sat at the edge of the garden. Mac was already there, hands folded, watching. Then, one by one, students stepped forward. Not with speeches, not with flowers, but with tools. Each student laid something at his feet. A trowel, a glove, a folded cloth, a rake. Dozens of them. No words, just presence. Mac stood. He looked around, eyes taking in every face, not with pride, not with emotion, but with that same quiet stillness that had marked every day of his return. And then, without ceremony, he picked up a glove and got back to work. From the second-floor window, Ms. Lott watched him rake the soil around the tree they'd planted for him, his back slightly bent, his movements deliberate. Behind him, 50 students working in silence. She turned to the principal. "Do you understand now?" she asked. He didn't answer, but he removed his cap and held it to his chest. "If you believe quiet honor still matters, drop one word in the comments. Respect. And if stories like this speak to something in you, subscribe. We tell them here every week. See you in the next story.